Good evening, Chairperson of this meeting, Professor Apurvanand, the author of the book that we are discussing, Mr. P.I. Jose, my fellow co-panelists and all friends without who our speaking here would have been meaningless, all of you in the audience. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to come and share some of the thoughts at a very critical time in Indian history. As a journalist, we often say that context is most important. This book has a very important context. We are almost in the third week of August. In just about a month's time, we will start witnessing the beginning of celebrations of the centenary year of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh or the RSS. This is the main subject of the book also, that what has happened in the last 100 years, where exactly is the nation being taken, where exactly is the nation being taken, where have we come from, where we were prior to 2014. This book actually delves into each of these aspects a lot. Some of the speakers before me, they also talked about the issue of the identity becoming very important for them. The identity as a Christian, that it was not there prior to 2014, or even if it was there, they possibly became more acutely aware of the Christian identity after 2014. As I said, context is very important. We are in 2024. 40 years ago, there was another kind of an identity in crisis. I'm saying identity in crisis. I am reminded of what was happening in India in 1984, something which we do not normally speak about. That was the time when one community of people for the last several years prior to 1984, but it happened more acutely after the 31st of October, all of you have, lived, have memories, or at least have read about what happened after the assassination of Indira Gandhi. Even prior to that, there was a basic problem of being a Sikh in this country, especially in North India, although even southern India was not spared from this completely. Some cities like Coimbatore actually witnessed very horrific riots after the assassination of Indira Gandhi. So the identity as a Sikh, had a turban, had a beard, became problematic for a large number of people. Before it became problematic and during the riots, what happened? It became the target of obliteration. People wanted to erase it. The most common methodology which was used by the mobs after the assassination of Indira Gandhi was to go inside the house, misbehave, molest, sexually attack, various kinds of attacks were there. On the women, on the men, there was only one target, the turban. The turban had to be taken off, the hair had to be clipped, and the beard had to be trimmed. Some of my very close friends, after the 1984 pogrom had settled down, they still felt that they couldn't live with this constant gaze of suspicion. Many of them cut their hair and did it with a tremendous amount of pain. Some years ago, I got involved in the 1984 because it was understanding that how an identity was being challenged and the beginning of a new wave of political problem in this country. The rise of majoritarianism started in the 1980s, beginning with the Moradabad riots. Then thereafter you had the mass conversions in Meenakshipuram, which actually after that, the RSS decided that they have to change gears. They cannot simply continue to to run their vehicles in slow speed, they have to speed up. So various things were done. It's a very long story. I don't want to get into that. So identity has always been a problem, and I think we have become more acutely conscious of our identities as a religious person while being Indians also. This book is very important because it's also coming out at a time when we are going to be discussing, in fact this discussion is beginning, a series of discussions on 100 years of Hindu majoritarian politics. What does it mean? So let me take you back and very briefly ideologically contextualize as to what we are talking about. Let's go back to 1924-25. It is not that there was no Hindu nationalistic sentiment was there prior to it, but before 1923, it had not been codified. This codification happened, that is an ideology, written word, a certain set of guiding principles was laid out for the first time in a book by Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, Essentials of Hindutva. In a very nutshell, it said that to be an Indian, to be a Bharatiya, you have to have your motherland here and you have to have your holy land. Now that was the first time that anybody was linking nationhood with the idea that this must be your holy land only. So if it is outside, then you are not a resident of India, or you are not a citizen of India, you are not a national of this country. Islam and Christianity were the ones which are targeted. There were different kind of battles of the progenies, the ideological progenies of Savarkar. This RSS was set up by Hedgewar, essentially of that. They carried it, they had the differences, but by and large they remained the followers of Savarkar ideologically. And more so this particular current political regime, this is possibly the most Savarkarite regime or a group of political individuals that we have ever seen in India in such a powerful position. So Muslims and Christians got left out. There were the decades during the national movement when there were very turbulent communal riots, but in these communal riots we do not get very much history of targeting of the Christians. Muslims become some kind of a sorted out community by the time this partition happens. There is the Lahore Resolution, which gives tremendous space to the RSS and the Hindu Mahasabha to further their politics. Gandhi's assassination happens. When after independence, the RSS starts expanding and this notion of Sangh Parivar starts emerging. One of the first organizations was the Vanvasi Kalyan Ashram, which was set up in the tribal areas. The primary program which was targeted of the Vanvasi Ashram was against the Christian missionary work in the tribal areas. Christians were the enemy number one of the Hindu majoritarian groups, whether the RSS or the Hindu Mahasabha after independence. When Mr. Vajpayee became the Prime Minister, it was the Christians who were first attacked. We have had references to what happened in Odisha, the Grahamstones incident. It was actually a rage against the Christians, against missionary work, any kind of missionary work. There are also incidents in the Dangs district in Gujarat. We cannot forget that. But the first targets in the Vajpayee era, when the NDA BJP came to power, was targeted at the Christians. So it continues in a very consistent manner. That we have to understand that there is a certain ideological positioning of Hindutva which needs to be understood. I am not going to get into it in greater detail. Very briefly about the book, there are three chapters which really struck me as very remarkable. This chapter number 4, which talks about the United Nations Human Rights Commission for Refugees, UNHCR. It talks about the Beirut Declaration and 18 commitments on the faith of rights, which I found a very innovative idea that we actually are trying to, thank you, we are trying to posit the struggle for human right, safeguarding human rights within the framework of what we believe religion, guides us to do. I am not a religious person, I am an agnostic, but those who are, I respect those who have religious feelings, that it is very innovative. The challenges before Indian Christians, I think, the challenge before Christians is to be able to have a shifting identity. You are being sought to be, people who are Christians are being sought to be fixated with a particular identity. The response has to be not just as a Christian, but also as a firm constitutionalist. That's the way we have to actually, so it's a very important chapter according to me. Also about the Indian diaspora. Now here I see that in the last 10 years, the Indian diaspora has possibly become one of the most cash-rich constituencies of Hindu majoritarian politics. When the Prime Minister of India goes abroad, he went abroad and he addressed a group of Indians in Poland. You will find that subliminally, he is not addressing only as the Prime Minister of India, but also as the leader of Hindu India. So there is a certain amount of what Savarkar used to say, that the ultimate objective is not Hindu Rashtra, because we are a Hindu Rashtra. That's what Mohan Bhagwat also says. The ultimate objective is a Hindu empire. Hindu Samrajya. This is what Savarkar used to say. It is happening on one level because of the proactivism on the part of the Indian government, going out and relating with the diaspora. Also because of incidents like what happened, very unfortunate, in Bangladesh. The minority community there was attacked because of the various kind of violence being targeted at various people there. The response in India turned out to be that it became immediately a question of talking about the need to protect the Hindus in Bangladesh so that we can further consolidate the Hindus within here. We are sitting in a time, where the BJP has not performed very well. They have lost 60 seats from 63 seats from what they were in the previous Lok Sabha. So how does one get it? They can have only one go-to issue, which is to boost up Hindu majoritarian politics. So Bangladesh becomes a similar kind of a tool, and you try to build the same thing, idea of a Hindu empire. You have the RSS chief reminding the government, and the government immediately following it, and even at the Prime Minister's level, talking from the Red Fort, talking about minorities in some other country. Are we not leaving other countries to talk about how we are treating our minorities? We are, but we are not really looking at that. We are talking about the minorities, the Hindus in Bangladesh at that particular moment. So there are many issues which I hope that this book is going to trigger a dialogue, a debate and a discussion. We are going to be witnessing a very vibrant phase, because over the next year and a half, I foresee a lot of ideological contestation, especially as the BJP and the ruling party tries to wind up, tries to come back in the position that they were. So I will, pause here. I have run out of my quota of time, but we will continue this discussion both formally on other platforms and also informally whenever we get the opportunity. Thank you very much, and congratulations once again for the book.